Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. If you would like to testify, you must fill out a testimony slip with one of the council sergeant at arms. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. No one may approach the dais at any time during this hearing. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you. And good morning and welcome to this, It's been a little while. But good morning and welcome to this hearing of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. My name is Selvena Brooks-Powers and I am the chair for this committee. Today's hearing will focus on the Taxi and Limousine Commission and its oversight of New York City's licensed drivers, vehicles, and commuter vans. The TLC oversees more than 200,000 licensees who together complete nearly 1 million trips each day. Most of these rides now occur in for-hire vehicles, particularly through high-volume apps such as Lyft and Uber. An often overlooked part of our transportation network is TLC licensed commuter vans. These vehicles carry up to 20 passengers, serve transit deserts, and provide essential connections to public transit. Many New Yorkers choose them for their reliability and ability to bridge gaps in existing transit systems. However, the licensed commuter van industry has struggled since the pandemic, with over 500 licensed vans in 2014 down to less than 40 a decade later. While the industry is slowly rebounding, illegal, unregulated vans compete directly with licensed operators and pose a danger on our roads. Many of these vans aren't simply unlicensed. They also ignore other safety regulations that govern licensed vans, such as having a licensed driver, having adequate insurance coverage, and undergoing required inspections. Unlicensed vans also illegally pick up passengers at bus stops or in bus stops, undermining the city's public bus network. Today's hearing will take a hard look at these realities and how the city can balance fairness, safety, and access across our transportation system. Serious challenges also face the FHV industry. FHV drivers have raised concerns about the lack of access to restrooms while driving. Because there are so few designated relief stands in Manhattan, drivers are often forced to travel into Brooklyn or Queens, which not only adds to congestion, but also costs drivers more and reduces the time they can spend serving riders. In addition to the oversight topic, the committee will also consider several pieces of legislation. Intro number 115, sponsored by Councilmember Avilés, requiring the Office of Technology and Innovation to develop a mobile app mapping all electric vehicle charging stations in the city. The app would provide real-time information such as charging level, connector type, e-bike compatibility, and station availability. Intro number 139, sponsored by myself, which expands the size of the TLC board from 9 to 11 members by adding 2 licensed driver representatives, ensuring that the voices of those on the road every day are directly included in decision making. Intro number 1000, sponsored by Councilmember Brannan, which would allow for-hire vehicles to park in commercial meter zones for up to 30 minutes, up to 4 times per day. Intro number 1346, sponsored by myself, which would require DOT to conduct a study of the commuter van industry every 4 years, examining ridership, service areas, and areas of conflict with buses and pedestrians. Intro number 1347, also sponsored by myself, which directs the TLC, working with NYPD and DOT, to develop a comprehensive enforcement checklist for illegal commuter vans. This would allow maximum penalties to be applied when unlicensed vans are caught violating multiple rules at once. Intros 1346 and 1347 are the result of numerous meetings I have convened with our commuter van working group, which includes commuter van operators, TLC, DOT, NYPD, taxi stakeholders, and transit unions. The goal of this group has been to craft comprehensive legislation that will help this industry, while also strengthening existing transit systems. I thank all working group members for their contributions and am excited for this opportunity to hear our co-drafted legislation. Today's oversight topic and legislation addresses critical questions. How do we ensure drivers have the facilities they need to do their jobs with dignity? How do we protect passengers from unsafe and illegal operators? And how do we ensure our transportation network remains reliable, equitable, and resilient in the face of change? Before we begin, I would like to thank my staff and the committee staff for their hard work in preparing for today's hearing. Renee Taylor, my chief of staff, Julian Martin, my director for legislation and budget, Mark Chen, Senior Legislative Counsel, our new Legislative Counsel, Theodore Miller, Kevin Katowski, Senior Policy Analyst, John Basile, Senior Policy Analyst, and Saimul Hamid, Financial Analyst. I now ask Committee Counsel to swear in the administration.
Thank you. I'm Mark Chen, counsel to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Our first panel will be from the Taxi and Limousine Commission, David Doe, Commissioner and Chair, Cheryl Aludo, General Counsel and Deputy Commissioner of Legal Affairs, and James DiGiovanni, Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Community Affairs. Also from the Department of Transportation, Eric Beaton, Deputy Commissioner for Transportation Planning and Management. I will now administer the oath. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions?
Yes.
Thank you. You may begin when ready.
Good morning, Honorable Chair Brooks-Powers and members of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. I'm joined today by Taxi and Limousine Commission General Counsel Cheryl Aludo and Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Community Affairs James DiGiovanni, as well as Eric Beaton from the Department of Transportation's Deputy Commissioner for Transportation Planning and Management, as well as Rick Rodriguez, Assistant Commissioner for Intergov Affairs. The for-hire transportation sector has been rapidly changing, and my testimony today will provide a snapshot of the state of the industry, important developments since the last hearing, and address the 5 bills on the agenda. Our sister agencies, the Department of Transportation and the Office of Technology and Innovation, will discuss these bills in more detail. TLC licensed vehicles continue to move New Yorkers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We are not only the city that never sleeps, but the city that never stops moving, made possible by nearly 178,000 TLC drivers. Every minute, there are an average of 612 trips, and this has translated into 158 million trips through the first half of this year, compared to 151 million trips that were completed in the first 6 months of 2024. As of June, there were cumulatively 121 million ride-hail trips, 24 million yellow taxi trips, and about 12 million for-hire vehicle trips. These trips are more accessible than ever. This June, TLC achieved 50% accessibility of the city's active yellow taxi fleet. As Commissioner Christina Curry of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities stated, for the disability community, this progress means more than just numbers. It translates into greater independence, reduced isolation, and better access to work, school, healthcare, and everyday life. If you include the more than 7,400 for-hire vehicles that are also wheelchair accessible, the TLC's 13,000 strong wheelchair accessible fleet is by far the most accessible in the nation. The robustness of this overall industry is mirrored in the for-hire vehicle sector. At the beginning of the year, there were 782 bases compared to 728 at the beginning of 2024. Trip volumes for livery, black car, and luxury limo bases, as well as high volume bases, continue to show strong performance in comparison to 2019 levels. Within the for-hire vehicle sector, TLC began implementing the state-authorized COVID-19 Livery Vehicle Recovery Act on April 15, 2025. The high-volume for-hire vehicle sector also remains in good health. In June, this sector completed approximately 20 million trips, a similar number to June 2024. Lyft and Uber continue to dispatch about 20% of trips to electric and wheelchair-accessible vehicles, exceeding the current 15% Green Rise baseline for 2025. I mentioned earlier in the year that TLC was in the process of amending its first-in-the-nation driver pay rules for rideshare drivers, authorized by Local Law 150 of 2018. Before these rules were implemented, 85% of drivers in this sector were earning less than the equivalent minimum wage. In June, TLC adopted amended rules, reaffirming our commitment to improving the economic security of licensees. For a sample trip of 7.5 miles and 30 minutes, the minimum per trip payment is approximately $29, an overall increase of approximately 5% compared to 2024 rates and 26% compared to 2019 rates. As part of these amendments, TLC updated the per mile rate to account for increases in driver expenses. Crucially, the new rules also limit the ability of Uber and Lyft to lock out drivers from their platforms. Under our new regulations, they must now provide at least 72 hours notice before denying access, and they must allow these drivers to accept dispatches for at least 16 hours once they're back on. I want to thank the TLC staff, advocates, researchers, and licensees who helped get this rule package to the finish line. Turning to commuter vans, the industry continues its slow but steady recovery. There are now 51 licensed vans compared to 38 at the beginning of the year. This progress is partially thanks to Empire State Development's Commuter Van Stabilization Program. Additionally, licensed vans continue to operate safely. Of the 66 safety-related violations issued to commuter vans in calendar year 2024, only 7 were issued to licensed commuter vans. Only 2 licensed vans experienced collisions with no reported injuries. This contrasts with the unlicensed vans, which unfairly compete with licensed vans that are not inspected for safety. TLC continues to conduct joint operations with NYPD and these illegal operators in 9 operations in Brooklyn and Queens in 2025, with more in the works. Enforcement lays the foundation for a safe and healthy industry, and we continue to recruit, onboard, and hire new officers. We currently have 114 officers. Just this morning initiated another class of 34 cadets. We are also working expeditiously to implement local laws adopted by the Council. Local Law 78, sponsored by Councilmember Gutierrez, mandates that all taxis and FHVs display decals warning of deadly practice of dooring or opening a car door without checking for approaching cyclists. TLC provided this decal to drivers for free, but it wasn't mandatory. I'm happy to inform you that we have secured enough free decals for licensed taxis and FHVs on September 3rd. We held a public hearing on amended rules to implement this new law. At the same hearing, we also introduced rules to implement Local Law 90, sponsored by Councilmember De La Rosa, changing the maximum required personal injury protection or no-fault insurance coverage to 200% of the state level, or $100,000. This aligns with Mayor Adams' goal to reduce costs for working families, while also ensuring that for-hire drivers and passengers still have the highest personal injury protection in the state. Lastly, I want to bring you to attention to the bills on the agenda. Introduction 139 of 2024, sponsored by Chair Brooks-Powers, increases TLC's Board of Commissioners from 9 to 11, requiring the 2 additional commissioners to hold valid TLC driver's license. Since this proposal alters the composition of the commission, we have asked the Law Department to review this bill for any legal concerns. Respectfully, we are opposed to this for many years, as asking for commissioners to regulate the very industry they make a living from is not appropriate. Given the commission regularly considers items relating to penalties, driver pay, safety standards, and other topics that directly impact licensed drivers and the riding public. Commissioners must be impartial, which could be challenging for a licensee. As such, we encourage the council to fill the existing vacancy on the commission with a candidate who has had past TLC-related experience, rather than an active licensee. We already have one such experienced commissioner, Commissioner Paul Bader, who brings his years of service to this role. We appreciate the goal of ensuring that drivers' views are considered in TLC decision-making, and we all are always ready to work with you to ensure drivers have an opportunity to make their voices heard. Since this legislation was first introduced, we have invested heavily in understanding that the driver experience. From surveying nearly 7,000 drivers to guide our driver pay rules, to the Medallion Relief Program, to establishing the Owner-Driver Resource Center and Drivers Protection Unit. TLC has made drivers a priority. I won't pretend to know what it's like to be a full-time driver, but I underwent the TLC's licensing process myself and periodically drive taxis and FHVs to better understand drivers' needs without collecting fares or tips. Introduction 1347 of 2025 requires the TLC, Department of Transportation, and Police Department to develop a checklist of laws, rules, and regulations for officers' use during commuter van enforcement operations. Enforcement across all sectors is a top concern for TLC, and our van enforcement figures reflect that. In 2025, TLC issued 113 summonses to unlicensed commuter vans, significantly more than the 59 issued in 2024. However, this bill would make enforcement against unlicensed vans more difficult and likely impede future progress. Our trained officers already check for all applicable violations. Requiring them to go through a lengthy physical checklist during a stop will add unnecessary time and steps as more illegal vans pass by. In effect, the administrative burden would outweigh any real gains. Intro 115 of 2024, sponsored by Councilmember Avilés, requires the Office of Technology and Innovation to create a mobile application that provides users with real-time information about electric vehicle charging stations. Our Green Rise initiative has increased charging demand for TLC drivers, and more than 300 new charger plugs have been added to New York City since our Electrification in Motion report was released. But a new city-run application would be incredibly costly and duplicate tools that already exist. EV owners can already access a myriad of charging apps. There are government tools like the Alternative Fueling Station Locator by the U.S. Department of Energy, and maps like Waze, Apple, and Google Maps list charging stations. A duplicative app would require continuous funding and resources to maintain with little additional utility. Intro 1000 of 2024, sponsored by Councilmember Brannan, allows for for-hire vehicles to park or stand in commercial parking meters for a limited time. We understand that relief areas are vital in the working condition for our licensees, which is why we are working with the DOT and driver advocacy groups to expand the existing 112 relief stands, which allow drivers to park for up to 1 hour. This is a top priority for this administration, and we're always looking for commitment and space from community stakeholders. I encourage the members of this committee to recommend additional locations to both TLC and the DOT. At the same time, the administration also recognizes that more dynamic curb management must not jeopardize access to commercial delivery trucks or parking meter operations. As TLC does not regulate signage, parking meters, or curb management, we defer to the DOT's position on this bill. Intro 1346 of 2025, also sponsored by Chair Brooks-Powers, requires the DOT to study commuter van service and produce public report every 4 years. The administration believes that a report would be useful for future policy making and helpful for evaluating the industry's recovery. I want to thank the members of the Commuter Van Working Group, which is convened by the chair, who helped develop this bill. Since this legislation requires action from a separate agency, we again defer to the DOT. Thank you for considering my testimony. As always, it's an honor to be invited to this chamber to discuss the work of the TLC. I look forward to working with all the esteemed members of this committee to develop legislation that ensures New York City continues to have the safest and most well-regulated for-hire industry. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And good morning, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm Eric Beaton, Deputy Commissioner for Transportation Planning and Management at the New York City Department of Transportation. As the Commissioner mentioned, we wanted to add comments on two bills. First, Intro 1000 of 2024. As TLC stated, we recognize the critical role that relief stands play in the health of delivery drivers. As mentioned, we are working with TLC to expand the number of locations for these relief stands. DOT is tasked with also making sure our streets function safely and efficiently. Part of this work is recognizing the need for a more dynamic curb. In recent years, we have implemented strategies to modify parking regulations to reflect current usages. As truck deliveries continue to grow across the city, this proposal weakens the efforts to better manage congestion on our streets. As written, Intro 1000 would displace delivery vehicles' access to the curb and increase the potential for these vehicles to double park. Additionally, Intro 1000 would require challenging re-engineering of existing payment systems in coordination with NYPD and the Department of Finance, which would create significant fiscal implications. We look forward to working with the sponsors, the TLC, and all the stakeholders to identify additional relief stand locations. Intro 1346 of 2025. As TLC stated, the commuter van industry serves an important facet of our urban transportation system as we address safety and mobility for all users of the public right-of-way. Since DOT provides a final recommendation to TLC on approval or rejection of requested commuter van authority and territory, we acknowledge the need to continue studying the evolution of commuter van service and operations. Our research estimates that commuter vans serve up to 70,000 riders daily who rely on them, especially in minority and low-income communities, largely in the outer boroughs. In 2018, DOT produced a citywide commuter van study to better understand the industry and its impact on the transportation network. This study provided insights to guide policymaking with recommendations that have already been implemented, including waiving the requirement for petitions and signatures before a new van authority can be recommended by DOT. Since then, there have been some changes to the industry's landscape. Local Law 7 of 2017 capping the number of commuter van licenses to 735, and the growth of the for-hire vehicle industry. A new study may have some modest benefits that assist TLC in making policies. We look forward to working with the committee and TLC to identify integral study goals that best suit this evolving sector. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been joined today by council members De La Rosa, Narcisse, Hanks, Areola, virtually, and Banks. And we will hear a statement from Councilmember Avilés.
Thank you so much, Chair Brooks-Powers, for putting Intro 115 on the agenda today. This legislation I've introduced during the last legislative session as a result of receiving many complaints from EV drivers in my district who struggle to find the right charger for their vehicle. As you may know, there exists a hodgepodge of accessible information on where to find chargers, the best of which might be the city's Flow, which lists all the official NYC DOT chargers. However, this app excludes all private chargers. For example, if there was a ChargePoint charger nearby, you would then need to download a separate app just to view ChargePoint chargers, and so on for each private entity, including sometimes those for specific manufacturers such as Tesla. There also exists Evolve NY chargers run by New York State, which are at the moment and can be viewed on the Electrify America app, which would also require a separate application. All of this is further complicated by no federal standards for charging ports or charging speed. Some vehicles might require J1772 port, others a NEMA 1450, and so on, with 8 or more possible ports, not all of which are available on any one charger, public or private, and all of which charge at different speeds. Will it take me about a half an hour to charge or 6 hours to charge at any particular location? Drivers may have to log into multiple apps simply to find which system has a charger available for them within a particular time frame that is needed. You might also use an app like PlugShare, which is the most comprehensive to date, but you might show up at a charger that fits your needs only to find out that it's located on private property, or that it's reserved for hospital staff only, or you therefore are unable to charge. So of course, over time, most drivers will adapt to these conditions, but at a time when we are, at least in this city, trying to increase the adoption of clean energy technology on behalf of drivers and fleets, We not only want to create a user-friendly system, but also build in flexibility also, so that we can include e-bikes in this nascent class of vehicles desperately needing access for safe charging stations. Our city has the resources to develop a comprehensive app, or at least I understand, as the administration said, it currently has it, level it up quite significantly so that you don't need 16 apps to figure out where you can actually charge your vehicle in this city. As we look to electrify our trucks as well, this may be something we may also want to consider as we vision a city that is moving towards net zero. So if we are serious about clean air, helping to make adoption of this technology less daunting for our residents, for the drivers, it seems like this would be something we should integrate as a city and really look towards, because currently it is a hodgepodge of systems that doesn't work, and we can do better. So thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Again, thank you for your testimony today. Jumping into it, I'm going to start with commuter vans. According to TLC reports, as of 2024, there were 12 authorized commuter van buses, which operate 38 licensed vehicles with 59 commuter van drivers. I understand, based on your testimony, that we are up to now 51 licensed vans now. This is still very far from the 48 bases, 534 vehicles, and 289 drivers a decade ago. Do you have updated numbers on authorized commuter van bases and drivers for 2025 to go along with the 51 licensed vans?
Thank you so much, Councilmember, for the question. Making sure that our commuter vans continue to provide a vital resources to their communities that they serve is incredibly important to this administration. What we know is that through our work, through your work, and through the state's work, we have been able to get the commuter van industry towards a path to recovery. With the commuter van stabilization program, $11 million is given to the commuter van industry to help them get towards licensure. That means helping them get insurance and helping them also add new technologies to their vehicles. What we know is that commuter vans grew since the beginning of this administration, from 31 to now 51 licensed commuter vans. And to your specific question, we have also increased the number of commuter van drivers and authorities as well, from the 12 that you said to 16 today.
So 16 bases?
Associations, yes.
Okay. And in how many drivers?
59 drivers. 69 licensed drivers.
Besides the commuter van stabilization program you testified about, what else is being done to revitalize the industry?
We continue to not only work with you, council member, but also the stakeholders. From Hector Ricketts to Leroy Morrison, we're always on conversations with them at the state level as well to continue to ensure that the commuter vans have a pathway forward. In addition to that, like I've told you, council members, that we have also built in more enforcement to illegal commuter vans. But I think a restorative approach, getting illegal commuter vans to licensed commuter vans, is incredibly important to me and to you as well.
Thank you for that. And do you collect data on commuter van usage, such as route geography, volume, and rider demographics?
No, but in 2017, council member, we did the first commuter van study. And with your bill, we will again do an additional study to see the needs and flow for the commuter van industry, including the routes that are most popular. I don't know if Eric, if you want to add. No. Okay.
Do you know whether unlicensed operations have similarly declined, or have their operations been expanding at the expense of the licensed commuter vans?
So we don't keep track of unlicensed commuter vans because they're not within our license structure, right? And so we know who are licensed and what type of vehicles and associations and drivers are licensed, but we do not have the data on unlicensed commuter vans.
So even when your agents go out and may cite them for violations for being unlicensed, you don't keep that information stored anywhere?
What I can say is that we have done 9 operations with the NYPD, and that there have been 119 summonses issued to unlicensed commuter vans, and only a very small fraction of that goes to licensed commuter vans. And so there have been 119, up from 59 last year in terms of violations. So we have doubled the enforcement on illegal commuter vans.
Pivoting to the unlicensed commuter vans. Unlicensed commuter vans are seen throughout the city and target the same market as licensed vans, but operate without the safety and consumer protection safeguards that TLC licensed commuter vans are bound by, such as insurance and inspection requirements. Do you have an estimate of how many unlicensed commuter vans in any way are operating in the city?
Beyond our enforcement numbers, I do not know the universe of illegal commuter vans. But what I can say is that we are advertising and making sure that unlicensed commuter vans know that there is help, that there is a $40,000 program to help get insurance for unlicensed commuter vans so that they can go into the regulatory scheme, so that it not only protects our passengers with proper insurance, but also the technology to ensure that they are operating safely and efficiently.
Do you know whether they operate in the same neighborhoods as licensed vans or along the same routes?
Indications from the data shows that they're operating in competition with licensed commuter vans.
According to an article by the New York Times, as of 2019, nearly 3/4 of commuter van drivers in the city were operating illegally. However, TLC has previously stated that the number of licensed commuter vans in operation is unknown. Why is it so hard to track how many unlicensed vans operate in the city?
It would be incredibly complicated for the TLC to look at the number of commuter vans across various corridors. We would have to have someone at a location and just to identify these in a survey format. And we have not done that in the past, council member. And so, it takes a lot of intensive resources, and we just haven't done that.
And what can we do to get a reliable estimate? Has TLC tried to coordinate with stakeholders or people in the community serviced by these vans to identify or estimate the number of unlicensed vans?
I think part of the bill that you're proposing, council member, will help us get towards that number and identify not only overall needs of the commuter van industry, but also the number of unlicensed commuter vans.
TLC also reported that in 2023, it seized 4 commuter vans, all of which were returned after a hearing with oath. What kinds of violations warrant seizure of a vehicle? Does TLC seize unlicensed vehicles?
So we do seize unlicensed vehicles. Commuter vans are a little bit more complicated than other types of for-hire vehicles that are operating unlicensed. Within the commuter van space, we not only have to get one guilty conviction and then catch them in the process again. Oftentimes, these are plated in other states, like Pennsylvania, for example. And it becomes very complicated when they re-register it, because then we have to start all over again to get another guilty verdict. So it is very complicated. And because of past court precedent, we are not able to seize these vehicles on the initial stop.
Moving to enforcement, what type of coordination exists between TLC, DOT, and NYPD or other agencies to ensure that parking, traffic, and ride-hailing rules are followed?
Yeah, so we regularly work with the citywide traffic task force at the NYPD to do commuter van operations. We do it across our city in both Brooklyn and Queens on Flatbush Avenue, at downtown Flushing, Main Street, and then also Jamaica Avenue. And so we regularly work with them to ensure that commuter vans are not operating illegally within a variety of different corridors. In addition to that, on unlicensed activity, we also work with the Port Authority at the two airports to ensure that our for-hire vehicles, especially the unlicensed ones, are not taking advantage of tourists and other residents of New York City. We do a variety of different operations, and throughout all of 2025 so far, we've had 3,000 summonses issued to unlicensed for-hire activity.
Thank you for that. How is TLC monitoring shared curb and pickup drop-off zones for commuter vans? And how does TLC interact with DOT and MTA in terms of managing the intersection between bus lanes and routes and pickups drop-off zones?
Yeah, so we have an amazing relationship with the DOT. The DOT is the expert on curb management, and they have consistently been able to partner with us not only in 2017, but also regular partnerships with my team to ensure that our for-hire vehicles are not impacting our streets in a negative way. But I'll turn it over to Eric to talk a little bit more about the DOT role in managing our curb.
Sure. And as the commissioner said, we work very closely together on these issues. And what we try to see is places where there's a lot of pickup and drop-off activity happening. We want to provide designated curb space so that they're not doing it in the middle of the street, blocking buses, blocking bus stops, blocking bus lanes. So in places like downtown Jamaica, we've created spaces where commuter vans can have separate pickup and drop-off that is different from where the buses are stopping.
But those areas downtown are often taken up by cars that are parked there,
Yes.
sometimes with plaques from the local courthouse and surrounding entities.
Yeah, and that's where the partnership with NYPD comes in. Obviously, we're not the enforcement agency against that behavior, but we work with NYPD, and when we see that happening, we reach out to them and ask them to focus in places. So certainly, if you're seeing things, we're happy to help coordinate that with NYPD as well.
Thank you for that. Looking to equity, safety, and consumer protection, what mechanisms are in place to address complaints or safety violations specific to commuter vans? And two follow-ups to that would be, are response times tracked by vehicle type or complaint? And on average, how long does it take for TLC to respond to passenger complaints for FHVs or commuter vans?
Yep. So in the last fiscal year, TLC received 23,000 consumer complaints. That's a lot of complaints, and 18,000 of them were deemed to be prosecutable at oath. And so our prosecuting attorneys look through the case, look at the complaining witness, and looks at the evidence to ensure that we can win at oath. In those instances, right, we also let our consumers know, be it a bicyclist, a pedestrian, or another roadway user, that we're taking this on and that they may have to be a witness in front of oath. In many of those instances, we look at the universe as a whole. And what took us maybe 45 days to 60 days previously, we have gotten down to 15 days through looking at the data and being more efficient. And so overall, we have been doing a better job and making sure that complainants get a resolution within a timely manner. I think when you talk to our bicyclists and other roadway users, when they file complaints, they are incredibly proud of the work that the TLC does because we're incredibly responsive and we follow up with resolutions to every single case. And we are an enforcement agency, so that helps as well.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge we've been joined by Council Members Juan and Abreu. I'm going to pause with my questions and allow my colleagues to ask their questions, starting with Councilmember Avilés, followed by Councilmember Narcisse.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the administration for being here. So I guess I'd like to first start with who designed the Flow app?
I think I'll turn it over to the DOT.
Yeah, so the Flow app is designed and provided by Flow, the company, who is our current partner in the curbside charging pilot.
And who is responsible for its maintenance?
So that is part of the agreement between us and Flow and Con Ed, that Flow, as the operator of the system, maintains and runs that app.
Great, thank you. And what is the total cost to the city to operate the system?
We will have to get back to you on the exact cost. We're in the process of transitioning from the Con Ed-led pilot to the city running. The initial pilot was at no cost to the city, and we have to look at what it costs now.
I'm sorry, can you say that last part again?
So we recently took over the operation from Con Ed just as their contract was ending. And so it's been a negotiated acquisition with Flow. And so I'll have to get back to you on the details of that contract.
Got it. We'll follow up. Has the adoption of the technology changed since its implementation?
What we've seen is a very strong increase in usage. When we first implemented these, we were seeing in the range of 15 to 25% utilization, which is still very strong by national standards. Today, we see locations all over the city that are at 90% or more, which is functionally someone is leaving as someone else is entering. So it's just very high demand for these locations.
Got it. And how is the city thinking about incentivizing adoption of safe charging for other types of vehicles like e-bikes and trucks?
Yeah, we do believe in the whole ecosystem. So obviously we're talking here about the Flow pilot. We've also been expanding EV charging in our lots and garages, both level 2 and fast charging, as well as working towards ways to charge e-bikes and other things in safe ways. So that's something that's still in development, but we very much recognize the need and want to think of it as a comprehensive system, not as lots of people digging things up separately. And then, as one of the mitigations for congestion pricing, there is a money to convert trucks to cleaner fuel and electric, which builds on our existing Clean Trucks program.
Is there a percentage of allocated money from the congestion pricing for that?
There's a specific amount. I don't have it in front of me, but we can get that to you.
Okay. I mean, so you would agree would you agree based on the current state of affairs, multiple apps, various charging speeds, hodgepodge, private, public, that there is an opportunity for either the city or an entity to actually provide a comprehensive app that could give you some more usable information around where you could use our charging stations?
Sure, and it's definitely a growing and evolving sector, so it's one we're paying a lot of attention to. I mean, when I use an EV, I usually use the PlugShare app and find it to be helpful in collecting both the public and private. I think what we want to do is make sure that we're doing our job well, which is installing these and providing good information. I think what we don't want to do is be duplicative with services that others are providing.
It's a good opportunity.
Councilmember, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Can I just say one thing
last
too?
question.
Thank you for that. I just want to say for the record, if our city is truly prioritizing New Yorkers, drivers, consumers, we would just reject autonomous vehicles. We should not be piloting ways.
Hello.
I'm sorry.
You
I'm
will
sorry.
be removed from the chamber if you cannot conduct yourselves accordingly. Please use the hand gestures to show support and do not clap.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for all that, but I just really wanted to make a statement.
Please.
So I would just say, if if we want to really care about New Yorkers, piloting ways to get rid of jobs instead of improving conditions like we are talking about here is where our administration should be focused their resources. So thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Councilmember Narcisse, followed by Councilmember Abreu. I just ask everyone to please be respectful of the time. We do, as always, have a lot of public signed up to testify, and we want to make sure we're able to hear everyone. Thank you.
I'm going to do my best. Good morning, and good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioner, and all the panelists here. For the commuter event, right? I'm having a problem with that because if I go on Flatbush right now, there's a sea of vans going around and disorderly conduct. I mean, some of them by King's Plaza. I have constant complaints. People are getting out of the van, they're peeing on people's lawn, they're doing all kind of those things. This is not quality of life. There's many of them, that's small business operators that just want to make a living, a good living, right? So for me, my question to you, what's the cap? What do you imagine the cap should be? Because right now we have about 51 licenses. How many you kind of imagine that the number should be?
Well, I think let me just first address Councilmember Narcisse, the quality of life issues. When and if there are any issues with commuter vans, please let me know and my team know, and we will send out TLC police officers with NYPD to make sure that they're not operating in there. Oftentimes, when they see us, they will disperse, but then they'll come back. And so we want to make sure that illegal commuter vans are not operating in your neighborhood. On the other side, right now there are 51 licensed commuter vans, like you mentioned, Council Member. And what that means is that we want to make sure that there is a space and an ability for them to get towards licensure. Right? This is 51. There is no cap to that. If a driver would like to use a commuter van and be licensed by the TLC, they can. I think the upper cap is about a little over 700. And so there's still a lot of room for licensed commuter vans. But that's why we support Chair Brooks-Powers' legislation to do a commuter van study so that we can understand where and how these commuter vans should operate, and they should not be operating in an illegal manner. And we support them getting towards the pathway to a licensure.
Let me be clear. There's some great folks, I know they're trying to do their business, that's why they're licensed. But the unlicensed one, they are the one that actually don't want to be licensed because there is no enforcement. And without enforcement, it's a free fall for all. And this is New York City. We cannot run the city on a free fall aspect. So we need to regulate. We need to make sure we create structure. And the community is kind of overwhelmed with not having enough enforcement to make sure, and then create a path for those that want to be legal and work and functioning in New York City. So let's do our very best to do that. And thank you, Chair. And I'm looking forward because enforcement is the key right now to make sure that we have structure for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the Department of Transportation for being here today. I'm here to take this opportunity to raise a matter of deep concern for my district, the stalled Riverside Drive Viaduct project. The completion of this project is now years off the timeline, and the condition of the half-completed project is taking a major toll on the neighborhood. It is unacceptable for a neighborhood to be left in limbo for years, and it is unacceptable for the city to sign a contract and not enforce the terms. Over and over, my office has tried to get information and schedule public meetings on this issue to no avail, and therefore I am here today. Instead, my constituents have been stonewalled, misled, and ignored. Today, I'm here to demand accountability. My first question, when does DOT consider a contractor to have walked off a project? And is it DOT's position that the contractor on this project is still completing the terms of the contract as required?
Councilmember, thank you so much. And I just want to say at the top, while I'm unfamiliar with the details,
I've been in touch with your office on this matter, and if you don't know, your staff definitely knows.
I'm going to make sure that after this we follow up, and it is unacceptable, and I apologize for the lack of communication. As to the specifics, I'm totally unprepared to get into the details on the viaduct project. I'm happy to personally come back to you and get the follow-up you deserve.
There hasn't been work done on this project for months. I live right across the street from this project. A lot of my neighbors have been talking about this project, and we haven't seen any single work done in the last year. As early as May of this year, we had a meeting with your office and some residents in our neighborhood, and it seemed as though the project was going swimmingly, only for us to learn recently that workers have appeared to have walked off the project. We want to know, since when did DOT have that information that they walked off the project? When will it enforce the terms of the contractor so that another vendor can come and complete the project? Our community should not be left without this transparency, and having follow-up on this question would mean a lot to my constituents. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Commissioner. So I'm going to just ask the questions on the record. You don't have to answer them, but I would like answers to them. Is it DOT's position that the contractor on this project is still completing the terms of the contract as required? If the answer is yes, how is that possible when the timeline has been indefinitely halted? The vendor has told residents that they are no longer working, and residents have not seen any work in months. If the answer is no, how is it possible that a contractor has been allowed to stop work on this project entirely with no consequences? What enforcement actions has DOC taken to hold this contractor accountable? Why has the city chosen to let a vendor abandon a critical infrastructure project without penalty? If you are negotiating with the vendor, when will DOT either compel this vendor back to work or move to terminate the contract and assign it to another contractor? There seems to be a clear enforcement issue here. My office was told in front of constituents as recently as May that everything was going swimmingly with this project and there was no issues with completion. I'm going to be reaching out to the comptroller to request further investigation. Thank you so much, Chair.
Do you have any answers for any of the questions? Is the Manhattan Borough
For the record,
Commissioner here at all?
No, they are not.
They're not. Okay. I'm requesting that the answers to the questions be submitted to Councilmember Abreu and CC my office before the week is out. Okay. With that, we have no further questions. We will be moving to the public. Thank you again to the agencies for your testimony and participation today. I now open the hearing for public testimony.